And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of IT Career in Australia channel. And tonight's topic is top strategy for embracing AI in your IT career. So thank you for finding some time to join me this evening. Please don't forget to introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know what you do and join our conversation with your questions and comments. Or at least say hi in the comments. Yes, again, as usual, say hi in the comments, because if you're not saying hi in the comments, I don't know that you're here, and it's disencouraging for me. So, it's nice and people saying hi. So please make sure to comment. And I'm Jana Martins. If you're new to my show, I'm currently working in the IT consultancy, and I'm passionate about learning more about present and future of the tech industry. And obviously, all this eager to share my latest findings with you on this YouTube channel. So again, tonight we are going to talk about top strategy for embracing AI in your IT career. And Simon is going to share his insights and experience. Obviously, AI is, burning topic. At the moment, everyone talking about being in ChatGPT and all this stuff. So please make sure tag and share this video with your colleagues and friends who need to hear this. And before I'll pass it over to Simon to introduce himself, just want to remind you quickly that we're streaming live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. If you missed the stream, no worries. You can always watch the replays by subscribing to my YouTube channel, IT Career in Australia. I go live there every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time, with experts from my network, and we're talking about all things around IT career, job search, and in and outs of the tech industry in Australia. And if you want to make sure you never miss the next show, join my meetup group to receive the invites for each event. And I'm encouraging you to ask as many questions as you like on any platform. Please stay on the topic. And remember, the most active participants will receive a nice surprise at the end of the stream. So Jason is here. Thank you, Jason. Always here, always saying hi. Love it. Thank you. I like dedicated followers. Arthur is here. Thank you for joining me tonight. I don't know, sometimes LinkedIn not showing names. Sorry if your name is not here, but obviously, if it's not showing, share your name with us as well. Anyway, you see, there is nice people here who are saying hi in the comments, so I'm expecting everyone to follow. And while you're saying hi, I pass it on to Simon to introduce himself, please.
Thanks, Jana. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me on. My name is Simon Collins. I'm a software engineer by trade. I currently work in consulting for a company called Digio, which provides software development services within Australia, and is part of a broader company called the Mantle Group, which is like a full service IT consultancy. I've been doing software development in some forms commercially since back in the first .com days. So it's sort of over 20 years ago. So I've got the scars to show. Recently I've taken an interest in AI and sort of trying to see how we can use that within our software development practice, and how you can build sort of real world systems with the new stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Is it Jason saying hi? Here we go. Again, another LinkedIn user. Oh my God, LinkedIn sometimes shocking without showing the names, but oh well, we have to deal with LinkedIn. It gives us other opportunities to network. Yeah. Anyway, so Simon, before we dig into your story and your experience, I want to do just a quick recap of few conversations that I already have, because it's been a burning topic. Everyone want to talk about AI and ChatGPT, and we had quite polarized opinions recently. So a few weeks ago I spoke with Scott, and he'd been basically saying that the future is really uncertain, and there is some chance that like in the 50 years time we might not have any jobs, and we basically just gonna be AI pets. So, and the AI can do anything, and pretty much because it's learning from itself, it can learn any, like, majority of the human skills. So if you guys haven't listened to this live stream, go back a few weeks ago. But then we spoke with Jason and Evgeny like 2 weeks ago about ChatGPT replacing tech jobs, and they were like mutually on the human side and looking at the ChatGPT more like a tool, like calculator that's before we were doing anything manually, and calculators came, we start just using them to make things quicker. So, and basically AI is just another tool. Yeah. So where are you in the spectrum? Yeah, from from being like in the spectrum, we're all in the spectrum. Yeah. So from extreme like AI gonna take all our jobs, to AI not gonna take any job, just gonna speed it up. So what is your opinion on that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think my opinion is really probably more towards Scott's, but more closer in the middle, I guess. I think AI is going to take away a lot of the more mundane jobs and leave us with a lot more creativity and a lot more free time to be creative. Typically, we've found that when these sort of new paradigms come in, that we can't predict, the type of new jobs and opportunities that are going to arise, up front. So I think there'll be a bit of that. No one would have predicted that sort of, social media influencer was going to be an outcome of the internet, several years later, as a job that you could be doing full time even. So, it's very unclear, and we don't have a crystal ball, but, I'm fairly optimistic that it's actually going to, we're actually going to not be sort of overtaken by the AI. We'll figure out a way of controlling that. But by the same token, I do think we're going to end up with, superhuman intelligence, or at least intelligence that's, on average more intelligent than us. We'll have to sort of figure out ways to control that and sort of keep it at bay. And one of the possibilities is that we sort of actually merge with AI, and that's, if you look at what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink, that's kind of one angle that he's pushing. If we can embed that, something in us that can sort of we can take that knowledge into our head and merge with us, then we can sort of prevent the AI taking over by becoming one with it, I guess. But it's very hard to have that crystal ball, but it's sort of fun to speculate about.
Yeah, it kind of feels a bit, definitely feel uncertain.
Absolutely.
Definitely feel uncertain, but kind of feels like, would be great, just to have this microchip with all the knowledge, and you just can go back and pull any information you need and just use it any way you want. So, sounds like a pretty good deal, but how it's going to turn out in reality, that's that's a big question there. Just a few more people saying hi. Ashish is here. We were just, talking about you, Ashish. Here we go. Prem is here. And Jason saying it's a different Jason on LinkedIn. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that's a different Jasons. Yes, Simon, back to, I guess, your kind of, your point there. So what's happening, from your point now with the growth of AI, and, what you think it's might going to happen?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess what we've actually got happening now is actual sort of practical uses of AI have come to fruition. So, previously we've had a few periods of AI hype where not much has come out of it. And each time we've gone back into, I guess, what they call an AI winter, where the people behind it sort of go away and sort of learn from, what didn't work in the hype before. Now what we've got lately is this sort of type of AI called generative AI, of which basically there are various forms, various modes of this AI, whether it's sort of generating, images from text prompts, or, doing text to text, where you're sort of summarizing text, querying for information, etc. So we've had a sort of a massive explosion in our ability to produce these type of neural networks that are actually sort of useful in real world applications. And what we're seeing is that there's an exponential growth in both the performance and functionality of these systems, and also we're seeing an exponential decrease in the cost of sort of running them and creating them. So if you look at the top in this slide, basically this is some output images from a tool called Midjourney, which is a generative art tool, which is very popular at the moment. And this is showing sort of 12 months from version 1 to version 5 of this tool, using the same prompt of a red-headed lady in front of the Statue of Liberty. And you can see that it's gone from something that's almost unrecognizable to something that's sort of photorealistic within the space of 12 months. So that's sort of an example of the exponential growth that we're seeing, and we're also seeing that in other tools as well. So you're seeing GPT-4 coming out, which is the neural network model that sits behind ChatGPT, the newest version that's come out with a lot more capabilities, and we're basically seeing sort of exponential growth in that functionality, and people aren't used to exponential growth. It's not something that we deal well with. It's not something that we've been exposed to. It's certainly not something that our bodies have been exposed to over the period of evolution. So what that leads to is
mutation takes a bit longer.
Yeah, exactly. So it leads to uncertainty and a bit of confusion, and all the stuff that we were talking about and that you've talked about with previous guests. It leads to concern, and I guess it's important to note that this is not something that's on par with, say, sort of future previous transitions, such as moving into mobile, or even arguably moving to internet. This is something that's probably going to be sort of on par with the invention of fire or the invention of the printing press in terms of how important it is to humanity and the effect that it's going to have on the way that we do things. And the quote that I was showing there was basically saying that it's very hard to predict what are called the second order effects of these sort of changes. So if we look at the introduction of the automobile, everyone could predict that, well, this is really useful, and that pretty much everyone's going to buy one of these eventually when the cost comes down. But no one could predict, really, or not many people predicted that we were going to see sort of massive shopping centers and massive store chains like Walmart, and that sort of thing. So it's very hard to predict what's going to happen. But what we do know is that it's a transformational technology, and that we need to we're going to have to adapt, and probably adapt very quickly, because things are changing exponentially.
Jason actually has a question. When we mention creativity and stuff, are you sure AI will allow us to be more creative? They're getting really good at image generation, which was thought to be untouchable in the past. Similarly with text and code generation. And it seems like the more manual task, like plumbing and delivery, that is more challenging to solve. Is creativity really a safe bastion?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly you can see that. Or if you look at like some of the AI tools, then they are arguably creative. But what they are is they're a lever for people who are even who are creative themselves to do even more creative things. So really, if you look, there's two camps of people who are concerned and getting angry because the computer is doing what they were doing, and then they can see that their jobs being at threat. But also you see people just thriving, artists who are thriving in that environment. So I've seen, for example, a photographer who is using Midjourney, for example, to just create amazing creations that just wouldn't be possible to create without sort of thousands of dollars, and a massive budget, really. So some people will take advantage of that and produce even more creative things, and other people will feel threatened by it.
Yeah, and I think we noticed also, yes, so some artists, the way how they describe, how they can see the picture, that actually can really enhance the picture as well. But again, maybe just a matter of time. Yeah, maybe 5 years from now, AI can be so creative that we don't even need to tell them what to do. They just create art itself.
Yeah, maybe the AI will just be sitting in a virtual room, just making movies for itself, and we won't have to worry about it.
And watching it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that might solve all our problems. They might just get bored of us.
Yeah, who knows, so but I think it's a good point actually from Jason about like plumbing. Yeah, so some of the physical work is actually one of that might be hard to replace in the near future.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the tables have sort of flipped in that. A lot of people thought that that those sort of jobs were going to be the first ones to be sort of automated away, and really it's not the case. We're probably going to see it. There's a lot of focus on sort of humanoid robots at the moment. If you look at Tesla and a number of companies that are sort of looking into that, but really it's going to take a lot longer for that to come into fruition. So what's happening is more the sort of white collar jobs that are being affected by this sort of stuff early on, plus the creative jobs.
Yeah. But I guess let's go back to IT industry. So we can talk about plumbers forever, but
another time. Yeah.
But let's go back to IT industry. So I guess what do you think? What sort of trends we can see in IT industry? What's happening here? We already mentioned a bit of a creativity, I guess, but
yeah. Well, I think, and we're starting to see this with actually as an outflow of COVID, really, is that we're going to sort of develop new ways of working, and we'll be able to sort of leverage AI within those new ways of working. So I think we're probably going to move more towards sort of less structured organizations, sort of flatter hierarchies, more of sort of mobbing around problems, and sort of working together to solve them. So maybe more like what you might see in sort of open source communities. And less structure, and that's sort of enabled by the fact that AI allows people to educate themselves very rapidly and get up to speed in any discipline. At least up to the point where you can sort of 80-20 it and contribute. And once you do that, it means that you can sort of move around and you don't necessarily need as much structure. Also, a lot of the administrative side of things goes away. So, maybe where you had some hierarchy for that sort of stuff in terms of management, and that might be less need for that. And also, just management in general. There's ways of sort of using AI to sort of oversee what's happening in a productive way without being sort of overbearing. So, we'll start to see some creativity around that side of things. So in that sort of world, what sort of people I think will thrive are people who can sort of be creative and find creative ways to do things utilizing AI and also ramp up to speed in different problem domains. So be able to be sort of multidisciplinary, and also I think it pays to be someone who's more of a generalist as well. It certainly doesn't pay to sort of pigeonhole yourself in one speciality unless you can find a really secure niche. Because when in a time of sort of massive change, and who knows what's going to be impacted, which niche is going to be impacted next by AI and general automation.
Yeah. So I guess, do you think any like particular roles, like you kind of mentioned the domains, but do you think like any particular roles will be gone first?
Well, I think there are a lot of sort of administrative roles where there's not necessarily a lot of creativity, but there's a lot of sort of grunt work involved in just syncing up systems and things like that. Any large organization has those sort of systems, but what sort of stopped them being fully automated until recently has been sort of it's very hard to sort of make systems that understand some of sort of the data in disparate systems, and especially if it's sort of not sort of structured data, it's sort of natural language and things like that. But now, AI, the generative AI that we see, in ChatGPT is an example of that. The sort of the models and the technology that lies behind that can be applied to those doing that sort of integration work. So anything that sort of involves a lot of rote and grunt work is really sort of open to be sort of automated away, or at least automated to a point where you need less of that type of person.
Dan is asking, when do you reckon Jana's role could be taken over by AI double? Well, I think, we can put avatar right now.
Yeah, well, you could definitely make a 3D avatar.
And it can start interviewing people right now.
Yeah, well, you could definitely get an avatar. I don't think you could replace your expertise, though. That's a long way off.
Yeah, just feed them a few questions on the topic. Yeah, I think it's not long for that.
Well, I mean, it's possible. I mean, the people who are experimenting with sort of a YouTube video, totally AI generated YouTube videos. I mean, that's certainly possible. That's sort of a one-way thing. But also, I saw a guy a while back who actually generated a 3D avatar of himself, and you could ask him questions, and that was like his resume on his website, which was very impressive. But a lot of work, a lot of work for him to do across a number of different tools. But you can see that sort of thing will be sort of automated, or there'll be software that makes that easy. So I think it was still a way off having that happen, but it's very hard to see into the 10 years into the future. The rate things are going, who knows what will happen.
I reckon in 10 years I can have my avatar, interviewing people. 10 years is probably a good mark.
Something to aim for.
Let's remember the day, 29 March 2023. I'll bookmark this video to see what's going to happen in 10 years. So I'll check in with you in 2033 to see how my avatar is going. Yeah. Okay. So back to IT careers, I guess. So let's, I guess, look at the different IT careers and how we can actually right now, so without talking about avatars in 10 years, what we can do right now. So we have already some technology, some AIs available for us to use. So I guess what we can do right now to enhance our career and stay on top of the curve.
Sure. Well, I think firstly, it's important to think about the new ways of working. So getting involved in sort of say open source or open communities where where you can sort of experience how that sort of way of working is going to be, and also being involved in communities that sort of introduce AI into them, projects that have sort of AI bots working in the community, in your Slack channels, for example, helping out and that sort of stuff. But then getting back on to things a bit more deeply, then I think it's important to think about where you are in your career and what's valuable at each stage of your career. And that doesn't really change even with AI. It just means that you need to figure out how AI is going to be useful to you at that particular stage of your career. So if you think in any industry really, but in IT especially, there's sort of three broad stages: junior, senior, and lead. And at each stage, you're a different person effectively in some ways, and you have varying levels of experience and also varying levels of things that are expected of you. So if you look back when you're a junior, and the reason I put a sponge there was because when I first did my first engineering placement job at uni, my manager there said, I love graduates because they're just sponges. Basically, you can give them anything and they just soak it up. And it's really what you are when you're just sort of starting out in your career. You're a sponge. You're young and you got a lot of energy. You can learn quickly, and really what's expected of you is just that you contribute and that you learn and build up a set of knowledge. And then as you get into the middle of your career, you're trying to become a sort of a craftsman, someone who can take on a bigger piece of work, design a full system, aggregate different pieces together to make something that works and meets people's requirements. And you have a different needs at that point and different expectations. You're starting to sort of mentor people who are more junior than you, so you want to be able to share what you know. and you also want to be able to leverage the knowledge that you've built up previously. And then once you get, into sort of last third of your career, which is where I am now, really it's like you're trying to contribute back in a broader, more strategic way. So you're often sort of going up into sort of leadership roles in some form, and then you're trying to sort of influence, a lot more sort of influencing of direction, setting strategy, broader sort of architecture and things like that, and sort of leveraging the wisdom and all the scars that you've got over the years. So at each point in that career, there's a different use for AI, and that's what the bottom line of this slide is showing. I've got the ChatGPT logo there, but really this sort of applies to any of the AI tools that are going to come out, now and in the future. So when you're sort of younger, you're in your career, you're really going to want to sort of see what those tools can do to sort of make you ramp up quickly and quickly across multiple different areas of IT. And you can leverage, say, for example, ChatGPT's ability to role play and help you learn about a specific topic. You can ask it specific questions that you don't know about, all the sort of usual stuff you might have seen examples for. Critique your code, tell you how to sort of transform your code in a certain way. So you help you build up a reasonable knowledge of how to build systems. And later, in the middle of your career, then you'll start to use it in those sort of tools in different ways, helping you sort of design systems. So you're more looking at, giving it sets of requirements and helping you brainstorm how you might, design a system to meet those requirements. For example, maybe, for example, drilling down into, getting it to teach you sort of less. More abstract concepts, things like domain-driven design, giving you a primer on that if it's not something you've come across, or, event streaming, rather than just, how do I program in Java or something like that, or, show me the best way to, to make a web application with Spring Boot or whatever. So, at that phase, it's, you can use those tools in a different way to help you be, a better system designer. And then, in the later parts of your career, then, you're doing less hands-on work quite often, and you want to use these tools to help you sort of set strategy and even influence. So, for example, like some of the work I'm doing within Digio is sort of helping us ramp up in this AI space, and part of it is sort of trying to figure out a strategy for helping our team ramp up with their AI skills. And, I can use ChatGPT, for example, as a really good brainstorming tool. Like, there's a sort of interactive loop that you work through with it to sort of get it to give you what you're after. But, it's great for that. And then, even just sort of, if you're, doing internal communications, maybe doing internal presentations where you're trying to sort of convince people to move in a certain way, then you can get it to critique your presentation. You can get it to help you structure something that's concise and to the point, just by giving it enough context about what you're trying to do. So, at each sort of stage in your career, then, there'll be different ways to use those tools to get the most out of it and to meet what's expected of you by your peers.
How, you mentioned a few things like here, for example, that you can ask ChatGPT to critique your code, yeah? How accurate you find it? Like there's a lot of talk about how much limitation, for example, ChatGPT has, and that it makes mistakes. And, if you code with the bugs and ask to, build similar code, it will generate the code with the same bugs and things like that. So how accurate you found the ChatGPT, and how often you need to double check what it's suggesting you? Like what's been your experience?
You always need to double check it. This is my experience at the moment. And because it can send you off down the garden path. And if I'm being perfectly honest, the first few times that I tried it and got excited by it, I went off down that garden path, and I have the scars from that journey. How they're just nothing major. I was really playing around with sort of personal development stuff at home and just trying to see what the boundaries were. But it is at the moment. It will do things like, for example, like the keyword that you'll hear is like hallucinate. So because it has currently the current version is not connected to the internet to go off and sort of Google and that. So it's not like what you'll find with Bing, the Bing search integration. So it's limited in its data knowledge. I think the cutoff for when it was trained was September 2021. So what that means is that quite often it will hallucinate things if it doesn't have it in the data it was trained on. And you just, so you need to have a bit of knowledge and you need to get into that sort of loop I was talking about before, where you go and validate it in some form. So it's a weird sort of situation where it's kind of maybe similar to sort of discussing a problem with your peer who may have a similar amount of knowledge to you, and just sort of brainstorming with them about how to solve something. You've got to sort of treat it more like that, but you've got to go and then validate that. And you certainly shouldn't just be taking any code that it sort of spits out at you and shoving it into commercial professional projects or anything like that, because there could be security holes, there could be you might not be doing what you asked it to do. It's quite often the case, or it just might not even work. So you have to be pretty careful, but that's changing, and then even like the most recent version of the model behind it is a lot better, like much better, significantly noticeable, and these things are coming out every week. So if we check back in 3 years, maybe, then it may be very different.
Yeah. And have you actually tried to do anything similar with Bing? Have you tried to compare?
No, I haven't actually, because I found ChatGPT sort of meets my needs at the moment, really. I did sort of watch with interest some of the stuff that was going on with Bing. It was a little bit freaky. I'm not sure if you saw, listeners saw where it went a bit rogue on people and started looking them up and threatening them. So that was interesting. I wouldn't say that turned me off, because you can sort of see why it was doing it, but it was it was kind of humorous, and maybe a sign of things to come. Maybe Scott's right. It's going to work out a way to enslave us in the near future.
I've been actually trying to find the expert on Bing to come and talk about Bing specifically, but no one actually put their hand up yet. Maybe the people didn't have enough chance to play with it yet. So maybe soon coming. We have a few comments. Jason saying, on a serious note, there are lots of past Jana's videos to train an AI, and there is plenty of videos and audio of her. It's very possible right now to train a decent Jana AI. I totally agree, with the amount of, content I produce.
I mean, all the pieces are there. It's really whether you can get something that sort of can masquerade as you in terms of the actions, but the audio, being able to train on your voice, being able to train on your video, being able to train on the content, the words, that's all there and all doable at the moment. It's really up to someone to put them together and then be able to actually control that in some form to get something that's sort of coherent. But you certainly you can see people there's the people sort of streaming sort of versions of made up versions of The Simpsons and Seinfeld on Twitch, where it's just like endless, infinite looping sort of pseudo Seinfeld and pseudo The Simpsons. So maybe there'll be like an infinitely looping stream of Jana on at some point on
24/7, 24/7 live with Jana,
Yeah, that's right.
Just different guests come and go, and Jana just stays.
That's right. You'd be immortal.
Look, I feel it's not far away, especially if you think about how much data there of someone like me has so much content. Nothing stops us going learn it just by looking at the hours of content. So something to think about, guys. Carlos has some comment as well. Hi, in my opinion, there are many unrealistic expectations out there mixing sci-fi and real-life AI application. Check out the Gather hype cycle. This has happened with previous disruptive technology driven by commercial purpose in industry. We're at the peak of inflated expectation, probably because of the boom of ChatGPT, which is not a new concept. I guess the best is to start understanding machine learning, algorithm AI capability is only the cherry on the pie.
That's true. I mean, there is a hype cycle, and we are definitely at the peak of it, and there's a lot of money flowing into it. So if you're trying to predict what's going to happen, you have to be a bit careful to take that into account. And I think I mentioned previously, there have been several AI winters. And if you look at what happened in the sort of Web3 crypto space recently, they're also now going through a winter, and it was a fairly harsh return to reality, which is not to say there's not stuff in that space even that's applicable and useful, and stuff will come out of that down the track. But yeah, it's important to be aware that we are at the top of the hype. What I see as being different is that we are getting sort of practical sort of sets of tools and capabilities that we can integrate into real world applications. You can see Microsoft integrating it into Office, and if you look at the stuff that they're demoing, it's like it's really useful stuff that you can put to good use in your day-to-day life. But the sort of like the more esoteric stuff that we're talking about, it's very hard to say when that's going to be possible. Certainly there's pieces of the puzzle to solve. Just the ChatGPT, the engine behind that is it can masquerade as being sort of like a human-like, but it doesn't have all the capabilities that we have. It doesn't have the ability to learn from previous interactions really, and that sort of limited. So how long it will take before we have that, maybe we'll go into another AI winter, and it'll take another 5 to 10 years before we come out of that with the solution to the next piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, who knows? But just because it's moving so quickly, I think that's why everyone a bit more tense.
Yeah, and the pace of it is. I mean, if you look at it's very hard to keep up. I mean, I spend probably a couple of hours a night at least, if not more, trying to keep up on the announcements and the stuff that's trending. And it's just like, it's never ending. It's like an avalanche. It's like, it's trying to surface an army really in the terms of what's been coming out, particularly in the last couple of months. But yeah, that might just peter out over the course of the year, and we'll go back to a slower pace while people sort of try and integrate that into real world solutions and sort of figure out where the pain points and the limitations are. That's still coming. So I think I mentioned previously, at Digio where I work, we are starting to get a lot of interest from clients about ways that they can use similar technology in within their enterprise. And so we're getting real interest in that sort of things. But there's still a lot of work to try and figure out what's real and what's not in terms of how it can be used.
What from your experience, what do you think the biggest limitation at the moment?
I mean, the biggest limitation at the moment is that it's very expensive to sort of the models behind this have basically all been sort of served over the internet largely, and the biggest limitation is that for example, if you're using OpenAI's APIs to build out your software, then you have to be aware that you're using a third party, and a lot of companies, for example, are hesitant to be using sort of third party APIs where they might have to effectively they're sharing some of their data, so there's issues of sort of data sovereignty and that sort of stuff as well, and they prefer to have something that they can sort of run internally, especially something where it's going to have access to a lot of their data. So that's going to take a while for the technology to get cheaper. But as I mentioned before, it is improving exponentially. So if you look at, for example, ARK Invest's Great Ideas 2023 presentation, the section on AI, they were saying that by 2030, what takes sort of like several $1 million to train a model of sort of scale and capability behind ChatGPT will take like $30, comparatively. So when you think about that, it's not going to be long before companies can sort of, and individuals even, can sort of run these models themselves. And once that happens, then things get really interesting. And you sort of open up a lot more sort of a broader range of use cases for companies that maybe have those concerns.
Yep. Yeah. So we only can, we don't have a crystal ball yet, but we can only look at a few different ways where it can go. I think Ashish has a question as well. Do you reckon these AI tools, by providing curated solution, may hinder the ability to do research or problem-solving skills of an individual?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite possible. So I think, if you're not careful, then we may outsource so much of it, and so much of the knowledge may be embedded within it that we may forget how to actually problem solve or brainstorm ideas. And that's where I think that's a key skill that people need to focus on, because if you build up that the ability to brainstorm and be creative and to work with these tools sort of in an interactive sort of loop, then you can use them as a lever to create even more powerful things. But if you don't, then we might end up sort of losing our ability to do that in the same way that maybe people depend on calculators more, and lots of people just don't have basic maths literacy as well these days. So it's definitely a risk, I think.
Yeah. But on the other side, like, why do you need to calculate in your mind? Like, if you have a calculator, yeah. But
well, exactly. I had the same discussion with, I was talking with a friend this morning actually about, for example, the use of ChatGPT in education. All the kids are using it. People are using it. Universities even been encouraged, actually, rather than sort of prevented. And she was saying, well, that might lead to kids who don't know how to write an essay. And then the question then is, well, what's the benefit of them knowing that? Or really, you've got to step back to, what's the reason why you write essays, and that's to be able to communicate effectively. And so that skill is not going to go out of fashion. For all the memes that you see about, one person using ChatGPT to summarize a long, boring email they got, and then someone else using ChatGPT to send that to take a few bullet points and write a long, boring email. I think the need to be able to communicate effectively is always going to be present for a long time. I think we're just going to have to sort of step back and focus on, for all the stuff that we've been doing, what was the real reason behind it, and what's at the core of it. And that's the stuff that's not going to change. And all the other stuff around it is going to change very significantly. Yeah,
definitely. We have a massive discussion in our comments about how Dan and Jason gonna create the fake Jana's avatar YouTube channel. I think, guys, I just need to connect you so you can talk, and I'm happy for you to go ahead and do it. If you wanna create the AI Jana, I have no problem with that. You have my blessing and permission. Go ahead, as long as I get cut of it. So,
as long as you get to approve it. Make sure it's up to your standards.
Don't forget we're sharing the profit, yes. And make just be sharing the profit, and make sure the accent is not as strong, just slightly, learn it to pronounce few English words better. Okay, so and I'll be happy with that. So so I'll leave those comments there. So, and we have few more, I think, questions there. My God, just keep going. I think Microsoft and AWS have the free ML AI services, so you can try them. Some other companies have already their AI stack of cloud services, some of them called code free. What is your take on that approach?
Other companies already have their AI stack of cloud services. Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what Carlos is referring to. There are definitely there's definitely AWS, Microsoft, and Google are the key players with their AI services, and there's been lots of announcements around that. There's also other ones like Cohere and Hugging Face and that, which provide free execution of models and being able to upload your own models. So maybe that's what has been referred
Maybe
to
it's
there.
related also was the question, what are your thoughts on Bard, Google versus ChatGPT and versus Amazon? I actually never heard about Bard yet.
Yeah, so I think Google was sort of caught wrong-footed really with their approach by OpenAI. So they've got a lot of technical capabilities and they'll catch up quickly. But at the moment, from everything I've seen, Bart is sort of lacking in terms of the answers you can get out of it. But that will probably change very quickly, and they'll probably be sort of on par or almost on par with what you can get from OpenAI and via Microsoft as well, because Microsoft is partnered with OpenAI. And Amazon, I'm not really sure. I haven't looked at what they've got, but they have ML APIs, but they don't have. They're not actually developing their own APIs, to my knowledge, or they haven't announced it anyway on a similar scale there. But it remains to be seen what they're going to do. I guess it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. I think we have one more question, so just related to this. The big new thing is multimodal models. People are starting to take the, in hindsight, next logical steps and integrating models together. Example one is Copilot of Microsoft 365. Have you seen that?
I've seen the announcement video and demos and things like that. Yeah, but definitely the multimodal models is the next thing. So the example of that with GPT-4, which has not been integrated into ChatGPT yet, is being able to sort of ask questions about diagrams and stuff like that. So really, while we're sort of thinking about being able to use these tools to query language and text and stuff like that, we'll soon be able to use them to query other forms of media. Really, anything that can sort of be converted into data, we'll be able to sort of query. So that will be video, text, image, code, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's quite exciting and very powerful, and that just opens up a whole other set of use cases for these technologies as well.
Yeah. So I'm just cautious about time, Simon. We're already, almost 50 minutes into our live stream.
Sure.
Ashish saying, thanks, Jan and Simon, great insights. Thank you, Ashish, for staying with us tonight. Thank you, everyone, for comments. I love that you comment and talk, and I can't wait for the fake Jana to run these live streams. It will be really interesting to go back to this video, in a few years and actually see, what changed and what hasn't changed, and what will be available in a few years. So we have, the comparison. Like every time we have another live stream about AI, we need to go back and see, like, oh, what we talked last year.
Yeah.
So has it changed? Did it go to that direction we were discussing, or or it's went completely different ways? So would be interesting to compare. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Simon, let's summarize. Yeah, so we're getting closer to the end. Let's just summarize. Obviously, the topic today was top strategy for embracing AI in our IT career. I guess what would be your top advice, or maybe top 3 points or tips for someone who maybe feel a bit uncertain at the moment, feel a bit uncertain about the job, about next career move they should make. Maybe they've been in the industry for a few years. So what would be your top 3 tips on how they can leverage AI in their IT career right now?
So I think the first thing is that try and learn to be become more creative. So spend time with these tools and see how you can use them for in creative ways, in ways that you might not have done, and even trying out things like text to image and things like that. Maybe even if you're not someone who's particularly into art, just seeing what they can do and seeing how creative you can be, because we're all a lot more creative than we give ourselves for. We don't always have the opportunity within our jobs to sort of explore that creativity, but I think that's going to change. The other thing is, I think, to focus on where you are in your career and just think about what's needed for you, and maybe if you're on a transition to a different part of your career, what's going to be needed in the next phase of your career, and then just think about well, how could these AI tools help me at that next stage to make that transition, and then just start sort of playing around with them and exploring those possibilities, and some of the ways that we mentioned previously. And the other one is, I think, just getting involved in organizations that use sort of newer ways of working, more sort of unstructured, less hierarchical ways of working. So, get involved in open source, get involved in sort of online communities that, it doesn't have to be in IT even. I mean, these things flow outside of IT as well. They're definitely transferable. So, and I also think there'll be a lot more cross-disciplinary stuff going on in the future as well, that will be enabled by people's ability to get up to speed with different disciplines as well. So using AI as a little magic genie that sort of answers all their questions about a discipline. So I think getting involved in that sort of stuff as well is going to be really helpful. So they're the sort of three things I think I'd recommend.
Yeah, and soon every company will be IT company anyway.
Yeah, it almost is at that point. Exactly.
Yeah. So no matter what company you're working in, it will be some IT, quite large probably IT component in every company soon. So so I really like also your point about looking at the companies with the less hierarchy, where you actually, that's your chance to have this more like a general kind of knowledge and be across the different responsibilities and different tasks and different domains as well, which is pretty important at the moment because we don't know where the things will go. So if you have a broader
yeah, exactly. And it's something that you can start to cultivate a culture of that within your own organization as well, like it's even on a small scale. So in Digio, where I work, we have what we call team of teams, which is sort of cross-functional teams that sort of deal with some of the cross-functional needs of the organization that we don't necessarily need a dedicated team for. So many organizations will have those sort of teams within them that you can be part of and get a bit of experience in working in that sort of a collaborative, sort of less hierarchical way as well. So that's one, definitely a good way of doing it. The other thing I should mention is on the last slide that I had, I have a QR code which takes you to a Miro board. So on that Miro board, I started putting a list of people to follow on Twitter primarily, but a lot of them have sort of websites and Substacks and all that sort of jazz. So take a look at some of those. They're all in different areas. Some of them sort of focus more on the sort of generative art, some of them just on broad AI trends, and some of them deep down into the weeds in the technical stuff. But they're all people that I sort of follow and on Twitter, and just get, that's how I keep up with the fire hose of stuff that's coming out, really. Yeah, I'll be updating that over the time.
If you don't mind, I'll also share this slide in the comments so people can go straight to the slide without looking for the slide in the video. That could be sometimes challenging. And now we back to exciting part of our live stream, the giveaway, the virtual coffee chat. So I'm gonna do announcement for next week, and you can look through the comments and decide who's the winner of the virtual coffee chat today. Keep in mind, Jason and Dan are already talking with each other. So they already have a task. So, they don't count today. So I'm going to connect them anyway to do their thing. So, and so next week, what's next week? It's already April next week. Oh my God. And it's daylight saving as well. What a pity. So 5th of April, we're going to talk with Nicole and Molly And we're going to talk about the guide to choosing the right tech traineeship program. So Molly and Nicole, they both work actually in the Mantel group as well. Here we go. So, and they're going to talk about, the traineeship program they have in their company, but also give you like overall overview that, like, what are the things you need to look up then, that you're choosing to get into IT and progress your career there. So, so if you, especially in your early stages of your career, definitely join the live stream next week. And Simon, who's you gonna have a coffee chat?
I'm going to give it to Carlos. I think there was a good question there about the, bringing us back to reality a bit and talking about the Gartner hype cycle. So, let's go with Carlos.
Perfect. I'll connect you on LinkedIn, guys, so you can continue the chat. Then what Jason said, that's going to require culture shift, which takes a really long time. That's when we were talking about, spreading responsibility and get the general knowledge. But, I think this shift is happening. It's slowly happening, but it will take time.
Yeah. I've been surprised how quickly some of this stuff has filtered down into where I wouldn't expect it. Like I got my dad on ChatGPT the other day when he was up. My mum texted me and she said, "Dad wants you to teach him about the AI when we come up to visit." I was like, "What?" So it's filtered down further than I thought it would very quickly. So
I know. And the kids these days, that's like next level. As soon as they're born, they're already like swiping back and forward and can find anything on the phone before you know. Thank you, guys. Carlos saying good session. Thank you, Carlos, for joining us tonight. Thank you, everyone, obviously, for joining us tonight. Make sure to like this video, because if you're liking this video, that encourages me to keep going. And it's nice, if you're liking it, it's, you even, use some energy and burn some calories because you move your finger to press the buttons. So it's a double benefit there. So make sure to like this video and share with people who need to hear this. And Simon, just to finish this live stream, can you just put you on the spot? Can you share your favorite inspirational quote with us? If you have one, or if you don't have one, you have to make one up.
Inspirational what? Sorry?
Inspirational quote, something inspirational, like, or some statement that you like, or any quotes that you like. Yeah.
Oh, I had it on the slide. I think that the Steve Jobs one about a computer is a bicycle for your mind. I really like that. And that's why I had on the slide, actually, I think AI is a motorbike for your mind. Yeah, that's why I had the brain on a scooter, because I think AI is like a electric scooter for your mind. So yeah, Steve Jobs one there. I really like that quote, and I like the interview that's taken out of. If everyone gets a chance to watch that, it's really good.
Perfect. So come on, guys, go watch Simon's interview and Simon Sining interview. But two Simon's interview, and and obviously, use the motorbike for your brain, because that help you to get from point A to point B quicker.
Just don't crash. Yeah.
Exactly, and wear the gear.
That's right.
and wear the helmet. A bit of precautions there. But anyway, thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us. And I'll see you next Wednesday.